Let's see how that works first before I, okay. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is loyalty and how to create loyalty, starting with this very bold statement. So how actually irritating or pissing off our customers can build loyalty. I know it's controversial, and I'll explain how I came up with this idea. But what I wanted to say that this is something that it's based on my own experience or something that happened to me. And that was the time when I was writing my thesis for the university. So I was hoping I would write about that. I didn't eventually. And this is actually the very first time I'm sharing this idea with anybody else but me. So let's see how it goes. So before I go, I just want to share with you what I mean by brand loyalty. And that's really 3 points, OK? So the first one is that I just bought a product of a brand A, right? Now, I have a need for another product. So it's a need connected to the product. And at that time, I start searching whether I can still buy it with the brand A. The second scenario is when the loyalty creates a totally new need in me. So I don't care about the product. It's not that I want a product, but I want the same brand. That's very often what happens with Apple, actually. If people love Apple, you know, they have iPhone, and let's say, I just want anything that Apple has, and I'm going to search later to find another product. So it's a different kind of need. And then lastly, it's any word of mouth, any buzz, any testimonials that I will give, like me protecting the brand, standing for the brand. Okay, so these are the 3 aspects that I consider brand loyalty. So as I said, all of this story is based on my own experience. So that happened, I think, already like 10 years ago. I was buying my first computer ever. And being a girl, I wanted my computer to be pink. I didn't really care about how good it was. So I went with my brother, and I was supposed to pick a computer that would be pretty, and he would be checking whether the computer was good. At that time, you didn't really have colorful computers. It was a challenge. So I finally found that BenQ. It was kind of like literally purple, dark blue. So I loved it. It was pretty and everything. And then, okay, I called my brother. Hey, check it out. Is it good? And he said, yeah, it's good. The price was very, actually, it was one of the lowest prices in the shop. There was one catch. It was Linux. So this is how I came to use computer with Linux. And honestly, I loved it. If any of you ever used it, it's awesome because you can change icons and add animation effects. So really awesome for girls. The only problem was that it kind of gave me some problems. So certain programs that you don't run on Linux, you have to have a compatible version. And at least 10 years ago, it was an issue because rarely any program had the version for Linux. And secondly, it would kind of screw any formatting that I was doing. So if I was doing presentation for university, the second I put it in my computer or put it on somebody else's, it all got messed around. So it was difficult. I couldn't really use it for work. And once what happened, that was the biggest event for me, what I really got mad is I forgot to save my presentation in a Microsoft format. And I came to the class. It was the final exam, and I was supposed to present for the final grade. And guess what? My presentation didn't open. So I had to give the final presentation without the presentation. So clearly, my brother comes to me, and he says, look, let me just install Windows on your computer. I should have said yes, right? But I didn't. And the interesting case is that I just fell in love with Linux from that moment. I was like, no way, I'm sticking to Linux. And what I started to do, I would bring my computer to the university. I would open it in front of my friends to kind of show off, look what I'm using. I'm so freaking cool because I'm using Linux, right? Even though it was giving me really a lot of problems. And that's when I started thinking, how is it that I am in love with something that is not satisfying my needs? So I started digging, and this is... Yes, thank you for this distraction. Anyway, so I am really a big fan of social psychology, and at that time I was reading about this concept called cognitive dissonance. Basically, whenever we talk about psychology, the main reason, the thing that determines our behavior, that's our identity. But the thing is, we don't know our identity. We don't know identity of anybody else. We base this knowledge on the behavior. So for example, if I see Joanna walking on the street and there is a kid crying and you help this kid, I will assume you're a caring, good person. So I base my opinion of you on your behavior. And I do the same with myself, okay? So I don't really know who I am, but I'm 27 years old, so over those years, I've behaved in a certain way, and this way I created my identity. So behavior equals to identity. What happens when it doesn't? This is when a feeling of discomfort kicks in, and this is called cognitive dissonance. And as researchers have proven, the feeling is extremely strong, and it's something you can't just like stop thinking about. It's really in your head, and it keeps bothering you. So you really want to get rid of it. So the question is, how can you do it? And there are a few ways that, from a psychological point of view, we deal with this feeling of discomfort. So the first one is external excuse. So let's go back to the example that I'm walking on the street and I see, this kid crying, and I consider myself a good, caring person, but I don't help the kid. I just keep walking and leave him lying there and crying. So that makes me think, oh, I'm such a bad person, right? I feel discomfort. So the first thing I can use as an excuse for this discomfort, to explain it, is external excuse. So what does it mean? Maybe I saw his mom running towards the kid, so I knew the mom would help him, right? Or let's say I was like half an hour late to meet my friend and I felt very bad about it, so I was running and I couldn't help. So that's the external excuse. The other option is change behavior. If I feel bad about the fact that I didn't help the kid, I can keep walking and then no, I gotta go back, and I do go back and I help. I change the behavior, no feeling of discomfort. I can also change my identity, right? Okay, I didn't help this kid, so I'm not a good person. I'm really a bad person. I don't care about anybody else. I don't want to help them. Clearly, that's not going to happen easily. And lastly, and that's the interesting part, is that I can change my attitude towards behavior. So I didn't help the kid, so I feel bad about myself. But what if actually, I didn't have to help this kid? What if not helping was good? So I can, all this change of attitude and belief can kick in when I will start believing that actually by not helping the kid, I'm doing him a favor. So I don't know, I might start thinking that if a kid cries and I help them, then a kid will learn that they can cry and get whatever they want. So I am teaching him a discipline and being more independent by not helping him in this situation. So let me just illustrate it. Imagine an example of buying a car. So let's say I am a man in this case, and I am a loving and caring father and a husband, so I'm a family man, and I'm buying a new car. But I decide to buy a car to show off. So it's a very fancy car, very expensive, very pretty, people love it, but it's not safe, and I know it's not safe. Again, I start feeling bad. So let's see what could happen, what kind of excuse could kick in at this moment. Okay, so we have our 4. External excuse. Can I say that somebody forced me to buy this car or that it was the only car available? I can't. So I can't really use any external excuse for my behavior. Change behavior, I would have to give the car back and buy a new one. Very complicated, and on top of it, it's admitting that I did something wrong, and nobody likes to admit that we were wrong. So again, I probably will not do it. Change identity, well, see, this excuse kicks it only in case of very, very drastic situations in our life. And definitely buying a car is not drastic enough. So that's not going to happen either. So the 4th one is going to kick in. And this is what I wanted you to really look at, is that sometimes we expect people to behave in a way because it's logical, because it makes sense. But if we dig deeper, we will see that people behave in an illogical way. And this is because they're protecting their identity. So in this case, what will happen? I will change my attitude towards the car. I will start believing that this is a very, very safe car, and I will want to convince both myself and everybody else, which means I will keep driving this car with my family. So I'm actually putting my family at a higher and higher risk just because I want to prove to myself that I care about the safety of my family. This is very irrational, if you think. Illogical. Why would anybody do it? But that's what happens. And that's the key here. This is the key of cognitive dissonance and then explaining our behavior. And that says why, whenever we buy something, you guys probably know it from your own experience, you just love whatever you have. Like the second it's yours, you love it just because you made this decision, and it makes you feel better about the decision if you fall in love with the object. So again, what happened in my case? Let's analyze it. I bought a computer with Linux, which is creating certain problems, so I feel a bit bad because I start thinking like, well, I'm a smart person. I can make a good decision. I don't want to admit I bought a bad computer just because I wanted it to be in a color, right? So what could happen? Again, external excuse. Nobody forced me to buy the computer. I wanted it. Nothing. Change of behavior, again, as with the car. I don't want to admit I was wrong, so I will not change it. Change identity, again, clearly buying a laptop is not big enough. So again, what's kicking in is the attitude. And that's what happened, as I told you. I just fell in love with it. And the interesting thing is that later, when I'll speak about it, but when my computer finally broke down and I had to buy a new one, I was looking for a computer with Linux. I had a chance to go another way to kind of fix my problem, and I purposely did not want to do it. So here's the thing, right? If I liked my computer from the beginning, I would just like it, and nothing else would happen. But I went through this process of cognitive dissonance, which kicked in and actually created very strong emotions towards the product. So if you want your customer to like your brand, just make a good product. But if you want them to love it, irritate them. Think about it. I got irritated at one moment. I was like, oh, why did I buy it, right? I started questioning my decision because at one moment, my decision, I realized it wasn't good. But this situation kicked in and made me eventually fall in love with the product. Now, I'm not saying do something that will eventually piss off your customers. I mean, and this is definitely against my ethics when it comes to marketing. But still, if we look at how the mechanism works, we can still take some lessons and see how we can implement it. So the first thing is that you need to give people a good internal reason to buy, okay? So you need to explain to them and have them see that your product is actually going to help them. So that's what I wrote you. The product has to work. I'm not talking about selling something that will not help people, that's you know, that's a lie, that's not there, anything like this. You do want something that people will recognize the need to have it. But it's also very important that the need to buy comes from within, not any external excuses. But now, what happens after a while? Is this effect strong? Is it like, you know, does it last forever or does it ever stop lasting? And again, let's go back to my example, right? So I told you a second ago that when I was buying my second computer, I was actually looking for a computer with Linux, right? What happened is that at that time, there was no computers with Linux. I could either go for Apple or for Windows. So the choice was taken away from me, right? I wanted to go for Linux. I was very loyal towards this product at that time. So if you remember, I chose it once. I was put in the second situation when I was buying a new product, and I wanted still to go for the same brand. I was very, very loyal. But the situation took the choice away from me. So actually what happens, it's a second moment of discomfort. It's the second moment where the process of cognitive dissonance kicks in. The thing is that now I have an external excuse. I didn't follow my brand because there wasn't any to buy. So the second case actually eliminated the effects of the first one. So keeping that all in mind, there are three things that I believe we can implement without like, you know, playing too much on ethics, because as I said, I'm definitely not suggesting you create products that literally irritate your customers. But the first one is focus on the internal reasons to buy. That means actually you shouldn't be going for strong discounts. Because think about it, you're offering a product and somebody is not really convinced whether they want it or not. If you give them 50% off, well, hey, okay, it's cheap, I'm gonna buy it. And if I ever question my choice, and most likely we do question our choices just because the choice is limitless right now. So the second I start thinking, okay, why did I buy the product? I will answer, because I had a great discount. If you don't have a discount, my answer will be, because this product is great for me. Right? Because the fourth excuse would kick in. So by giving a very strong external reason, you're not allowing for this process to happen. Yes, you will sell, and most likely you will sell more products to more people, but each person will be less loyal, and there are less chances that this person will buy from you again. The second one is being good doesn't mean much. Again, if you are good, people just like you. These are not strong emotions, right? So it's not going to take you far. It's not going to create any loyalty. You can try creating a freaking amazing product, and then people do fall in love with it. Or think of it, how can you create something that will really stand out? See, whenever something stands out, it means that somebody loves it and somebody else would hate it. So it kind of creates polarized emotions. And you do want to play with it. You know, you don't need to content everybody, you know, and so that people are, yeah, it's okay, I like it. You do want stronger emotions. And if for, you know, whatever reason, there is a moment when somebody starts hating you, it's okay. Keep proving to them, look, you actually made a good choice, and they'll come back to you with stronger feelings towards the brand. And lastly, ensure the choice. See, if I choose the brand in the beginning, brand A, and then I am put in a situation when, again, I have to choose either A or B, these are the situations that test my loyalty. And the more I go through this process, the more loyal I will be. Consistency, right? As you know, commitment and consistency. Once I do something, I follow my behavior. So first of all, you do want to create the moments when people have to choose your brand again. This is why you want to, offer new products for your customers. But secondly, you're risking that if for whatever reason they're looking for something and your brand is not satisfying this need, they might go for a different brand. And all of this process that you were building gets actually neutralized. So you're losing the loyalty in your customer. So this is all. If you guys have any questions, anything? Yeah.
What? Okay. In what situation would it be? Like, what kind of is it on? No. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Okay.
What case, like, what kind of extreme case would someone change their identity? Like, because the examples you gave, you said those weren't drastic enough. So, like, in what situation would someone actually do that?
This is something when somebody dies, for example.
Yeah.
However, I'll give you, this is my favorite example of explaining the concept. After the war in Vietnam, I don't know if you guys heard about it, a lot of soldiers who came back, they started saying that Vietnamese, they're like animals and they deserve to die. And it obviously was very shocking, especially that if you think who are the people that enroll in the army, right? Are those who really care about others, who want to protect their country, like typical good people. And because in their case, the identity of being good was so strong, when they were put in a situation where they killed civilians, exactly, even here, it didn't kick to change their identity, they changed the attitudes towards the situation. So it really takes a lot. Usually it's a death of somebody or when your whole world gets turned upside down. But again, it's a very individual thing, and it depends what kind of trait of identity we're talking about. Yeah?
Do you think you can give an example of how we can incorporate this into our marketing? A concrete example.
Yeah. So the first thing, as I said, I wouldn't go for very strong price offers. I wouldn't go for like 50% off. And this is something that's been kind of claimed by a lot of marketers, especially in the times of recession. They said, don't go for price discounts just because you are, you allow people to get adjusted to being economical, whatever happens. So no emotions are being created. So first of all, I would really look at our copy sales. How can we create the internal need for people to buy it so that they don't buy just because it's a great offer? And I do believe that we can do it. I mean, our products are really good and the way we sell them is good. So that's the first one. Definitely ensure the choice. It's something that we do. And again, it's about offering people, like if you have the profile of a person, of your customer, right? So you can kind of predict what kind of needs they have and what other products they would want to have. So this is where you reach out to them and you make sure that they know what other offer is from your side. Point number 2, that's difficult. Well, but again, I guess that happened to me with Apple. I'm not a big fan of Apple, to be honest, just because I loved Linux. So whenever Apple had a great campaign, I was with Linux. But I finally decided to buy an iPhone. And it's very expensive. And I think I dropped it after 2 months and it shattered. So again, I was like, okay, awesome, right? It's still working, but probably not for long. But actually, this little moment got me thinking, okay, was I so stupid that I finally decided to follow other people and buy the iPhone for so much money if it's not that good, if it doesn't last very long? And to be honest, if it ever breaks, I know I will buy another iPhone at that time because it broke. So this is called, if I'm not mistaken, built-in obsolescence, something like this, which means that you actually make your product not last very long. There will be certain aspects of the product that they're not perfect. That something will break. For example, a car, you do it on purpose. You allow certain parts to break because that engages your customer. Again, when you do it, you want to make sure that this is the aspect of the product which is not the core of the product, which is not the essence of it, so that it still satisfies the initial need, right? I mean, my phone still works. I can still call. But it irritated me that it broke. So it's a very, very delicate balance. What are the aspects of your product that you can allow to stop working at a certain time? But I'm saying, honestly, there's no clear response. And I never attempted to give, like 5 tips, that's what you do to build loyalty, because it's tricky, It's tricky, I know it.
So anyways, great presentation. I really loved it. There are a lot of things to think about. And there's one idea that comes to my mind, which I think is why people love Otto's Fun and Madness. If you go through that program, he actually creates that rotation. You cannot go to the next chapter till the time you check off certain items and click and go to the next one, which is like for an information product is a little bit irritating because sometimes you just want to skip and skim, which you cannot do in that product. So I think there's definitely things that we can think about from your presentation. So very nice presentation. I don't know the answers, like you said, no 5 steps, but it's awesome. Yeah. Any other questions?
Actually, it's not a question. I just want to give an example. So Rolls-Royce, they do this with their cars. Rolls-Royce is a very expensive car brand, and the chief marketing guy said, for every year since they made their car, the #1 complaint that's the same every single time they make it is that the design of the backlights is really ugly. And they acknowledge this, and even though they know it, they deliberately make it ugly because they said, in kind of the same way that when someone is in love and you're with someone, you acknowledge their faults and you love them anyway, that actually having ugly backlights in a Rolls-Royce car, it makes them want to, there's a stronger emotional connection than if it was just the perfect car that they imagined.
And if you think when it comes to relationships, right, if there is a trait you don't like, after a while when you fall in love, actually this trait becomes one of your favorites. It's because you want to explain your behavior, and that creates these feelings. Yeah. Sorry for all the couples. Okay, thank you guys very much.